What's going on, guys? I'm Yeshaya, this is FireFace Films, and today we're talking about the recently announced Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. But before we get to that, make sure you drop a like, get subscribed, and click the bell to get notified when we post. On with the show. Alright, so Blackmagic finally did it. I guess they did. They announced a full-frame cinema camera. We've been waiting for this, well, I say we. We've been waiting for this for a long time. So there's a lot of people who really wanted Blackmagic to get into the full-frame cinema game, and that honestly might not have been the best move, and we're gonna break that down ahead. Lots of time codes below in the description so you can understand why that may or may not be a good thing. But before we talk about full frame, let's talk about the first interesting choice that they did, which was to retain the pocket cinema form factor. Now specifically, this is more along the lines of the G2 and 6K Pro. And this is both a good thing and a bad thing. So it's a good thing because for most people, if you're upgrading from the pocket line to this camera, you're gonna be able to pretty much use all of your accessories. Now, Blackmagic did say that certain cages may or may not work with this camera, and we'll find that out when the camera is actually in the hands of most people. Now, that's cool, but what isn't cool and what's really the deal breaker for me for this camera on first glance is the fact that since they stuck with this body style, we're not getting any new ports. So no professional SDI connection, no full-size XLR, no actual timecode port, which is super important. We're not getting that. Now granted, as far as timecode goes, the Pocket series could do timecode through the mic jack, although that's not the best solution. So it blows, but I guess them's the breaks. Now, a big pro with this body is that we finally are rid of CFast 2.0 on, well, at least the current line of Blackmagic camera. As anybody who's in the filmmaking game knows, CFast is a old and stupidly expensive memory type, as we've moved on to, for this camera, CFExpress Type B, which is relatively inexpensive and cost efficient, as most CFast 2.0 cards are still wildly expensive even for a 128 gig card, whereas 128 gig cards for CFExpress Type B are relatively inexpensive and they're more reasonably priced. And funnily enough, CFExpress Type B is more reasonably and proportionately priced than most SD cards at this point. So it is an amazing move that we moved on to this. And you still have the option of recording to USB-C discs, which for using the pocket camera, which I have for many years, that's gonna be, if I went with this camera, that would be my go-to choice, as recording to those cards is still way more expensive than if you just buy a few SSD drives. And for the big elephant in the room, full frame. This is like a multifaceted thing. So first off, around this full frame sensor, we went with the L-Mount, which it's so funny. There were a bunch of rumors about Blackmagic joining the L-Mount, but they never officially said anything until they announced the camera, which there are a lot of people who are gonna bemoan Blackmagic for going with the L-Mount due to, oh my God, there's not that many lenses. Guys. L-Mount is a very new mount. And there's a lot of good first-party lenses, though they are quite expensive. And years down the line, there are going to be a lot of great third-party lenses. So the L-Mount is a great and future-proof lens mount for this system. And then, I gotta say, if we're talking about this full-frame sensor, though, it's really cool. Honestly, it's a nice option that we have a full-frame, very competitive raw camera at a $2,600 price point. That's fantastic. You're not gonna beat this at this price point. Although I feel that Blackmagic would have been better served doing a more just jacked Super 35 sensor. Because if you think about it, the market is chock full of all these 3x2 like 6K full frame cameras, but there are not that many 6K Super 35 cameras in cinema form that would be really competitive. You're not going to get really good Super 35 until you go up to the $5,000, $6,000 price point. Then you're looking at the Ursa or the Red Komodo or the C70, for example. So if Blackmagic could have done something extremely disruptive at this price point, that would have been amazing. Although saying that now, I guess that really wouldn't be the best option for them, as that would probably cannibalize the Ursa lineup, which, by the way, they've basically abandoned that, except for this recent 12K OLPF. A really interesting thing that I've seen, Blackmagic spoke about it, and I've seen a few videos specifically from Matteo Bertoli. I'll drop a link to the video I'm about to reference, but the rolling shutter on this full-frame camera could be problematic. Now, rolling shutter for a lot of people isn't a concern. It's not a factor, because not everybody's going to be filming fast-moving action or sports or wildlife like that. You're going to take this camera and use it in, more than likely narrative-controlled circumstances, and in which case the rolling shutter may not be an issue. Although it remains to be seen how it holds up in certain situations, although in the video I left in the description below, Matteo Bertoli has showed that it is a little wavy. It's a little wavy. And although in its Super 35 mode, which interestingly is 4:3, which I commend that. You don't see too many 4:3 sensor like crops for Super 35 and full frame cameras. They just give you the 16 or 17:9, so I really enjoy that. The rolling shutter in the Super 35 mode is greatly reduced. So there's a give and take there, and on most cameras when you go into a crop mode, the rolling shutter gets reduced and you're looking good there anyway. So no surprise here, but it's good to know that it's there. Another disappointing aspect of this camera, in a sense, this can be disappointing, although for some people it might be inconsequential, is that we lost the internal NDs that we just gained on the Pocket 6K Pro. So, granted, given the form factor of the camera and the fact that you're using a mirrorless mount, you were not going to get internal ND on this form factor. It was not going to happen, which is why it's a compounded problem sticking with this body type in order to, I guess, cut the costs and come in at an extremely disruptive price point like they did. So ultimately, it's a moot point, but for some, it can be a deal breaker. Although realistically, internal ND for a lot of people is not a deal breaker, but it would have been a nice sweetener to have. I guess the only thing that remains now to be seen is, hopefully, we don't have any of the first buyers are beta testers situation for Blackmagic cameras. Granted, that mostly hasn't happened in a while, but you never know. They could slip into their old ways, but fingers crossed that does not happen. Are you guys ready to put on your tinfoil hats? Because I am. All right, here we go. In my research, I found that for L-Mount, the company Kip-On makes a focal reducer for full-frame L-Mount. Now you might be wondering, why would you speed boost or focal reduce a full-frame sensor? So that way, you can get faux IMAX. Okay, all right. I know you're thinking, whoa, how is that possible? How are we getting faux IMAX on this camera? Let me explain it to you. So first, what is IMAX? IMAX film is a extremely large film size. So for the actual film size of IMAX film, you're looking at 70 millimeters by 48.5 millimeters, right? Now for the average full frame sensor in 3x2 VistaVision, whatever you want to call it, you're looking at 36 by 24. Keep those numbers in your mind, okay? And then for 65 millimeter film, you're looking at 52 by 23 millimeters, all right? All these numbers in your mind. So the focal reducer from Kip-On is at 0.71 times X, 0.71 times focal reducer. Now, if my napkin math is right, if you speed boost this sensor, you will get a 51 and a third, 51.3 by 41 millimeter sensor. That's right. That is just slightly short, but way taller than 65 millimeter, and only 20 millimeters and 20 millimeters less wide and like 6 millimeters less tall than IMAX. So, under the right circumstances, so first off, you're going to need medium format lenses. So that's like Hasselblad and Mamiya 645, Mamiya 645 lenses. So you're going to need those plus this speed booster in order to make this combo happen. If I can test it, if I can find some way to get these things, I will absolutely test it. But if I don't, I will be on the lookout for someone to test this, because this is a game changer. Now you might be thinking, there have been a ton of L-Mount cameras already, full frame with this same sensor area. Why has nobody tried this yet? And honestly, I couldn't tell you. This is a crazy, crazy opportunity that I have seen nobody talk about. So someone absolutely needs to get on this and test it. If somehow we get sponsored within the next year and we can get people to send us stuff, you best believe that's one of the things we're asking for to test, because this is a crazy, amazing opportunity. Because think about it. If you have this amazingly like huge sensor size area to look in, plus the amazing image quality and flexibility of the Blackmagic RAW codec in 6K, you can craft amazing imagery. And again, it's all about the tool. It's like a camera's a tool, but if you have this tool to help you craft a story in a different way, there's so many possibilities here, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, we're gonna take off our tinfoil hats now, and we're gonna close it out for the day. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Again, make sure you drop a like, get subscribed, and click that bell to get notified when we post. And yeah, we're gonna see you guys in the next video, and have a great one, and keep camera conspirarizing. Yeah.